Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Boost Student Research with Teach Britannica Toolkits. So this is a higher ed focused webinar. This is the fifth of our Teach Britannica webinar series and the final of our Teach Britannica webinar series. Shed a little bit of a tear here for the work that Christy and I have done. We feel this has been a really successful tour of Teach Britannica products. So my name is Chris Heinz. I'm the Director of Customer Experience here at Britannica. I've been with Britannica for about 3 years. My job here is really to make sure that folks who have access to our resources have all the training and support necessary to get the most out of them. So my background is actually as a high school social studies teacher. So if I go off on tangents and anecdotes, I apologize. That's just my nature, is trying to be a engaging storyteller as much as possible. And moved into some district management in the assessment world for a while before landing here at Britannica. With me is my wonderful co-host and colleague, Christy Bengali. So I will turn it over to her.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to webinar 5. I like that co-host there. I'm Christy Bengali. I'm the curriculum learning specialist here at Britannica. I have been with Britannica for just about exactly a year. It was a year last week, and it's been a fantastic year. I worked on a lot of the development behind Teach Britannica's content that you'll see today. Prior to that, I have close to 20 years experience in New York public schools, where I was a world language teacher, primarily in middle school. And then I was an instructional tech coach and a middle school administrator. And was really excited to start on this project and collaborate with Chris. So we're really excited to share with you what we have today.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. And I did see in the chat, someone mentioned not being able to see my camera or screen. Is that an issue across the board? I can go ahead and let me stop my share and see if I can get that sorted out here. And hopefully we'll be good to go. Christy, are you able to see?
I am, and it looks like
Okay.
others are able to see. So
Okay.
what we might want to suggest is maybe logging out and coming back in again. But it looks
Sure.
like, oh, it looks like she's okay now. Can see everything.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. Couple other names here on the screen that I want to briefly introduce. Julie Schuster, our product owner for Teach Britannica, and a name that you may all be familiar with in the higher ed space, Diane Ote. Diane, did I pronounce your last name right? I don't know if I've ever pronounced it correctly. I see you're off mute, so you can correct me if you need to.
You were close. It's OT.
Okay. OT. I'm sorry. I just realized as I don't think I've ever tried to pronounce your last name. So this this is the first time. So
That's okay.
yeah, but you may know Diane. Diane does a lot of our customer success work in the higher ed space. So Diane, did you want to introduce yourself as well?
I guess. I thought I was going to be a silent observer.
Sorry. Okay.
Um,
Well, we'll
n-
we'll
n-
leave you alone after this, I promise.
no, I've been in the higher education space for about 15 years, working with faculty, course directors, department chairs, and then the libraries that serve the various schools within the higher education space. And I've been with Britannica for about 4 years and was super excited when Britannica said that we want to um, shift some of our focus over to higher education. Everyone knows us as being very well placed and well respected in K-12, and now we've taken some time and said let's spend a little bit of our time with our higher education friends, and that's where we are now.
Awesome. Yeah. And for everyone outside of the Britannica sphere, internally, this webinar has been referred to as the Diane webinar because she's done a great job of really promoting this to all of the higher ed folks that she's worked with. So thank you, Diane. Much appreciated. And our big crowd, I think, can really be attributed to the work that you're doing as well. So
Yay.
awesome. So let's go ahead and jump in. So today we will go through Teach Britannica, which is our newest resource, which is open access, and we're really going to focus in on our academic toolkits, which are specifically built to help promote research skills and ways that you can incorporate these into the work that you're doing with your students in the higher ed space. So we do like to start off with just kind of a quick discussion of who we are as Britannica Education. We will go into a little bit of how do you teach research, and so how Teach Britannica can help to support that. And I do hope that you feel comfortable to communicate in the chat. There'll be a few sections where I'll ask for some audience participation through the chat as well. And then we'll do a quick demo, talk about some of our next steps, and have some Q&A at the end as well. So at Britannica Education, you see our mission statement up here on the screen. We really want to empower educators to create those meaningful learning experiences to ignite curiosity in your students. So we do this through a diverse collection of digital solutions. Some of you may have access to maybe Britannica School or Britannica Library through a state partnership. Some of you may subscribe to Britannica Academic in the higher ed space, or a number of our other collections as well, Britannica Image Quest, Launch Packs, Expedition Learn. We have a number of different resources positioned in the K-12 and the higher ed space to really help educators create these meaningful experiences for students. We also really like to tout our customer support and our team of customer success managers and customer experience managers that are dedicated to helping you get the most out of these products. And then our professional learning team, which I am a part of, works really hard to not only help to train on product, but also other aspects and topics within the education space as well. So we really take a multi-tiered approach to providing service, but really helping to support your needs as educators as well. So into that, we've introduced Teach Britannica. This website's been around for about a little over a month now, with a lot of really great resources. And so I'm going to let Christy talk a little bit about kind of the development and the guiding principles of Teach Britannica.
Sure, happy to do that. I'd love to share with you our 5 core principles and foundations that apply to all of the resources in Teach Britannica, 3 of which you'll see today. As Chris mentioned, it's our new dedicated teacher resource hub, and it's really designed to integrate our Britannica solutions into your work. So let me walk you through those 5 essential design principles. First, we know every classroom is different. So all of our resources come in both digital and non-digital formats, whether you are teaching in person, supporting students in person, or online, or both. We have you covered with print or digital options. Second, we really design with the intention of putting students at the center of everything we create. Everything we create is about getting students actively involved and excited about all aspects of their learning journey, whether it's at this academic level with research or at the earlier elementary level, all the way down to our younger ones. Third, everything we do is grounded in what we know works. We use proven teaching methods that actually move the needle on student learning. We're big believers in supporting teacher growth, as Chris mentioned a moment ago, and that's why we are committed to providing ongoing guidance to help you get the most out of these tools as we continue to expand Teach Britannica, and through the work of Diane as well, and relaying that to you all. And finally, and this is something that's really important to us, myself included, I would go as far as to say it's my most important principle is our commitment to inclusion. Our commitment is built into everything we create and design. Our resources are designed to reach every student at every level. You'll notice that in our work today and resources we show you, you'll see our intentional approach with the inclusion of differentiation and variations in our instructional strategies that you'll see to meet the needs of all learners.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. So with all of that kind of centering the work that we've done here, we're really excited to share what we have in Teach Britannica and how we can help to support you. Before we do that, I did want to turn things over to you and hear your voices through the chat. And so just to kind of get a sense from folks in the higher ed space here, what do your students really struggle with when conducting research? Because I know I have my thoughts in terms of kind of and what I've heard from folks that I've interacted with, but we'd like to hear from you here. What do your students struggle with when they're conducting research in the higher ed space, or if you're a K-12 person as well? What are your students struggling with? So I will stop talking briefly, give you some time to communicate through the chat, and then we'll move forward. All right, already fast and furious answers in the chat here. So selecting a topic, technology struggles, evaluating resources, absolutely. Research strategy, finding appropriate resources, paraphrasing research articles, right? That can be a challenge, is not only finding, articles and content, but also finding information within those sources. Knowing what a journal is and how to find the right article, absolutely. And citations as well. So I think you've kind of shared a very kind of broad range of kind of the things that students do struggle with, right? Determining, credible resources, right? Finding solid content that's going to help them. But sometimes even not knowing necessarily what to look for, right? Finding those search questions and ways to really kind of hone in and narrow their focus in research as well. So thank you for sharing. And I hope that as we go through this session and introduce these resources, you'll find a little something that kind of addresses all of these kind of struggles here, and within Teach Britannica, as well as some of our other resources as well. So Teach Britannica, very excited about this. And the feedback that I've received, because as a lot of you know, fall is definitely conference season. So we've been traveling around to a lot of conferences throughout the country here, and really getting some good feedback from folks who are really excited about the Teach Britannica site in general. So the nice thing here, we're going to highlight 3 of the resources that are available that I think really are applicable to the higher ed space. So the first are instructional strategies. These are really flexibly implemented resources, evidence-based strategies that are designed to be used both in the library and in the classroom, but really kind of pair well with graphic organizers. You can sort these by grade level or strategy type, and really give educators the opportunity to kind of implement these strategies, right? Sometimes save time by introducing the same strategy, creating a routine around it, right? So that students are able to kind of know what's coming, but use these high impact strategies as well in the classroom. Christy, anything you wanted to share additional about the instructional strategies?
I would say for folks who have visited Teach Britannica at earlier, late September with its initial launch, we didn't have instructional strategies at the academic level. But in receiving some feedback from you all, which we always appreciate, there are many of our instructional strategies in our home gallery that many loved and we're starting to use. And I think it's really exciting. So we went ahead and sorted through our instructional strategies and sort of organized for you strategies that are applicable at the higher ed level. And what I'm seeing in the chat, as far as some of your comments on paraphrasing, evaluating sources, we do have a number of instructional strategies in there with accompanying graphic organizers, as Chris mentioned, that can definitely support that work or that sort of skill building as well. So I would encourage you to check those out.
Awesome. And yeah, I'll show you where to find all these, how to filter. We'll do a quick tour of that as well. But yeah, really excited to have these mapped to the higher ed space also. Graphic organizers, these have almost been, oh, hello, Peggy. I was wondering where you were. It's good to see you again. So the graphic organizers here have always been a very popular piece. You've probably heard me say this before, Peggy, I know you have, but I did a session in the Chicago area where I was working with some library media specialists and showed our graphic organizer bank to them. And one of the ladies in the room, she just kept pointing and clicking and downloading all of the graphic organizers to her device and didn't listen to anything I said for the rest of the session. But when she left the room, she said it was the best professional development that she'd ever been to. So graphic organizers, very popular piece. We have offered these in our asset library. We've refreshed them. We've included them in Teach Britannica, but probably the most flexible resource that we have that can really be kind of molded to whatever your needs are in the classroom or the media center. But yeah, really nice digital, and so they're fillable PDF forms. They're also printable. We have a nice layout so that you can see a thumbnail to see the preview of everything. But really excited to share these as well, and I'll show you where to find these. Christy, anything I missed?
No, I think you hit it all.
All right. We've got a good cadence down now, I think. So the last piece here, and this is where we'll spend most of our time, is with these academic toolkits. And I will be fully transparent. A lot of the work that I've done here at Britannica over the past 3 years has been really K-12 focused, right? We've done a lot of work in with our state partners that serve K-12 and with our school district partners. And a lot of the time, and Diane, you kind of spoke to this quite a bit over the past few years, but a lot of the time my thought was higher ed doesn't need us, right? They don't really need as much training and support, or that was kind of the feeling that I got. And what we really spoke about was, well, yeah, we focus on the K-12 space, but really what's the difference between a 12th grade student and a freshman in college, right? That they're pretty much the same kid, right? In a lot of cases, and really building out some resources that can help in the higher ed space, particularly around research, can really go a long way to making things easier for you in that higher ed space. And yeah, great point in the chat. Sometimes, right, you're working with dual credit students as well, right? There might be students that are even 15, 16 years old who are coming to you in the higher ed space. And so providing these resources, providing this support was a big push to really make sure that we're in that higher ed space as well, and able to help you and meet you where you are. So these academic toolkits were developed to really help build research skills, guiding students through the complexities of college level research, and really providing some steps, some resources to help them, but a really comprehensive guide to research. Christy, did you want to share anything additional about kind of the development behind these?
Yeah, I would say when we started our publication of the toolkits, we started with 5, which you'll see in a moment. And as Chris mentioned, the 5 that we selected, which are the research process, crafting effective research questions, source credibility, citations, literature reviews. We really started with those based on some feedback that Diane got to really start to hit some of those bigger topics that were of interest. And we can see those in the comments that you shared a moment ago. We are excited to announce that at the end of the month, we'll be adding a few more. I'll tell you about that a little bit later on, and continue to develop our toolkits. But as Chris mentioned, those critical research skills they need throughout college and beyond. In today's world, being able to evaluate information and think critically isn't really just for writing papers or that research paper, but it's an essential life skill. And in addition to student use, we also think these can uniquely support faculty, a broad range of faculty. They're designed to integrate seamlessly into lessons. They can be used from structured classroom activities to supplemental materials or writing workshops, tutoring sessions that might be offered at your library. They are flexible in design, and they can be adapted to both instructor-led or independent learning to really kind of meet the needs that suit you best. I think that's I think that's it, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. So now that we've kind of level set and talked about, set the table here for what these are, let's jump in to Teach Britannica, and I'll show you where to find all of this good content here. So within the Teach Britannica site, and I did put the link in the chat, we can put it back in there, but it is just teachbritannica.com. This is open access, so there's no firewall, there's no paywall. Really just want to make sure that this is available to all educators, and really to help support your usage of Britannica resources. So when you come to the homepage here, you see everything is broken down by product. Again, some of you may have Britannica School, you may have Britannica Library, but we do align our content in Teach Britannica to specific products, although it can really be, a lot of these can be used across all different products within the Britannica ecosystem here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on academic, because this is where we have those 3 resources that we talked about here. So we'll save academic toolkits for the end. I just want to focus really quickly on these instructional strategies. Really, again, flexible. Here's your little pop-up if you want to sign up for our newsletter too. Always a good idea to get the latest and greatest from Britannica. But really just kind of quick strategies that you can implement here. And you can see that these are all, we show kind of what grade these are aligned to. And you'll see a lot of these both in the K-12, but then also in the university space as well. And so as I look at, let's say, cause and effect, we provide kind of some pacing when you would implement this, a procedure along with any graphic organizers that you might need. Again, those can be downloaded directly to your device, fillable PDF forms, as well as printables to help, for additional flexibility there. So we provide the graphic organizers. We do have some steps for differentiation and variation as well. But again, designed to be very flexible and allow you to use those however you see fit within your classroom or media center. Graphic organizers, again, very popular here. And again, kudos, Christy and team, for putting this together in such a appealing way where you can actually see the graphic organizer before you download it. But here we have all of these, again, aligned to the university level. Someone mentioned evaluating resources. I really like this PDF here. One of the things that we talk about let me zoom in on that so we can actually see it. But when we talk about, conducting student research, is that a lot of library media specialists will say, well, we don't want to just send kids to Google. And I always kind of hedge that bet and say, well, Google is a good way to find information, but students need to be aware of what they're looking at, right? And really evaluating the sources they find. And this graphic organizer can kind of help with that, right? So getting them to think about who wrote this, what's the publishing body, is this a neutral or unbiased source, or does it have a bias to it? So really getting them to think through some of those research questions as well, and evaluate the sources before they just trust them and use them in their research projects. But yeah, really excited about the graphic organizers here. And now we'll jump into our academic toolkits. And like Christy said, there's 5 of these. This is just the start. We're adding 2 more shortly. I would imagine over time we will add additional content based on feedback from you and how you feel like this would be effective for you to use in your classes. Let me do a quick tour we'll do the research process academic toolkit here. So we do a quick overview and we talk about kind of how we can kind of coach students on the research process, what their key findings will be here. We like to lead off with some of our key concepts, additional resources that you may need. Obviously, we would, I guess you could say we're a biased source when we talk about resources. So we would encourage Britannica Academic or other Britannica resources, but understanding that, additional resources and other databases might be helpful as well. And then we provide kind of a step-by-step guide here. So we start by formulating your research question. What are your ethical considerations, your lit review, designing your research. We provide some kind of worked examples here as well of getting students to think about different methods and different types of data that they're collecting. So we really provide, I think, a really nice overview of the research process here. Again, how can we then take that information that we've researched and turn it into a finished product, whether it's a paper, whether it's a presentation. So getting them to really think about that. Someone did mention citation. So we do have built into our resources a citation tool as well, and making sure that students are using that information ethically. Tips and best practices, common pitfalls, right? Areas that, as you're thinking about this, some of the things that we talked about today, right? Choosing overly broad or vague research questions, failing to conduct a thorough literature review. So really just getting, kids to think about this, right? And as they're going through their research. These are designed both to be either used as a professor, as someone in the writing center, as someone in the library, as you're working with students, or something that you can give to students to help them kind of through that process on their own. Christy, anything that you wanted to share in addition, just as I kind of walked through the toolkit here?
The only other thing I would add is that all of our resources are available for view in mobile view as well. And we know that many college students, could be working on multiple devices at a time or looking up some research on their phone. So all of this is available in a great mobile view. And what I love about the specific steps and process is the way we design those is to almost look like a checklist to support students in actually routinely going through the steps for each process, so that they can kind of make those skills, transfer those skills, make them more transferable to what they're actually researching.
Yeah, I think that's an important point there. Christy, there was a question in the chat as well, or in the Q&A, about would we ever consider putting this into more of a slide format? Shauna was using this with students projecting it on a screen, walking through each step, but would have been a little bit easier if it was more segmented and kind of like a slideshow. So any thoughts on that?
Not currently on our radar, but this is the first we're hearing of that. So any feedback and suggestions, we always bring back to the team, and that's something I can certainly bring up. I can definitely see your point. If you're presenting this in a classroom of students, it might be easier to kind of have those step-by-step procedures built out on separate slides. So it's definitely something we'll take into account for the future for sure. Thanks for that.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. All right. So let me go back into our slides here. And what we want to do is give you a little bit of time to explore as well. So what we're going to do is we'll put the link for the Crafting Effective Research Questions Toolkit in the chat. Again, it's open access, so you should have no issues getting into the resource itself. And we'll give you about 5 minutes to just kind of explore a little bit. And if you're willing to offer any kind of stream of consciousness, first thoughts, feedback, questions that you have, happy to hear from you. If you think this is something that would be useful in your space, or if there are other suggestions for how this could even be improved, or things that you think, you might want to implement with students. So yeah, please, I'll go ahead and pause for just a second, just a few minutes here, give you some time to digest, and then share any questions, comments, feedback, and concerns. All right, so thanks everyone for sharing. We do have some next steps here. So what we would recommend is to bookmark Teach Britannica, make sure that you have that available for easy access. We try to make it as easy as possible to get to. As you have successes, please feel free to share that with your colleagues as well. And share that with us. If you reach out to our team, reach out to Diane, as you have any comments, questions, feedback, we're more than happy to take that into consideration as well. And I know there were some great suggestions in the chat as well about, potential user experience improvements. So we're more than happy to work with you and really build this into a tool that you feel is gonna move the needle for you and move the needle for your students as well. So that brings us to the end of our time today. That brings us to the end of our webinar series for Christy and myself here. But really appreciate your time this morning. If you, again, have any questions, please reach out. We're more than happy to help. But yeah, we'll stick around for a little bit if you have any questions that you want to follow up with here at the end of the session. But again, thank you on behalf of myself, Christy, our whole team. Really happy that you're able to join us today, and we will certainly be in touch moving forward as well.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.